Talk about Boris Johnson again in more detail. He allegedly broke COVID rules again by inviting friends over to Chequers, his grace and favour home during lockdown, but his spokesperson says it's nonsense and he's going to sue. Let's find out, should we, what Conservative peer and pollster Lord Hayward has to say about it. Hi.
Morning.
Good to see you. Your whole take on what's happening.
It's a wild roller coaster in terms of events. And I think it's right that if people, whoever they may be, have discovered further entries in diaries or whatever, that they have to be looked at. Otherwise, there's an accusation of cover-up in some form or another. And to be honest, I think Boris Johnson's aides are probably ill-advised to kind of say, it's a stitch-up and all the rest of it. Just say, we'll answer the issues as and when they arise.
Why now, do you think?
I actually do believe that events happen in a series of circumstances. And therefore, it's come out because somebody's been looking at diaries in terms of the COVID inquiry, as we understand it. I don't have full details. I don't think any of us do at this stage. So I think it's unlikely to be, quote, a stitch-up. It's just a series of events which have to be looked at.
I mean, Boris Johnson says there's no case to answer here. If he thought he was doing anything wrong, he wouldn't have put it in his diary, would he?
Probably not.
No.
You'd certainly be unwise to do it. And if he believes that, and it's a fair observation, then why then turn around and say it's a stitch-up? Just say, I will answer the issues at the point when whichever inquiry looks at the events and the circumstances.
And what impact will it have on the inquiry? I'm guessing it's all part of the inquiry.
That's a decision for the members of the team to look at, decide how they handle it, decide whether it is relevant to the terms of their inquiry. My guess is that they will, and that therefore it will delay events because Boris Johnson gave evidence. If this is new information, which we understand it to be the case from May the 18th, then he's got to have the opportunity to answer that, whether that's in writing or in person. So it will delay the inquiry and the results of that even further.
What impact will it have on Rishi Sunak and his attempts to steady the ship?
For him, it must be very frustrating in the same way that with Suella Braverman as well. He's got good news this morning in terms of inflation. He had the IMF figures yesterday, and these form a distraction. Having said that, there are those who would like to see Boris back as leader or Suella as future leader. It makes it more difficult for them to argue when you've got these constant noises off stage, which are distractions, and say, well, it's a bit risky for the Tory party to go down that route.
And how is his premiership doing? Has he managed to steady the ship?
He had very disappointing local government election results, there's no question. The opinion polls have seen a downturn in late April, early May. They've now begun to recover back to what they were, but they're not where he would want them to be. They're several percentage points short. And the polls show at the moment that Keir Starmer would have a minority administration, but an election is a year and a half off. Rishi is suffering from the distractions of other people when he wants to get the message across. We have got the economy under control, although the figures this morning at 8.7% show that inflation is sticky, even though it is below 10% at last.
Interesting you say an election 18 months away. I said that at lunch to someone yesterday. They said, no, it's much less than that.
No, it's October. And it's to do with inflation figures, because any opinion poll shows that cost of living, the economy, is the top issue. Immigration, NHS, these sorts of things come further down the line. But cost of living. And cost of living is not just the goods that you buy in the supermarket, but it's also the interest rates that people pay in terms of their mortgage. And at the local elections, there's a fair amount of evidence that actually it was the people who've just faced interest rate increases on their mortgage who didn't go out and vote for the Conservatives who had previously said they would. So those interest rates have to come down. That takes time. It's not going to be early. It's going to be October next year.
OK. That won't be influenced by, sorry, just to go off to tangent, that won't be influenced by the US elections and anything that Trump might be up to?
I think that's unlikely. We've got more than enough issues to tackle in this country.
Including immigration. You mentioned immigration there. We've got the figures coming out tomorrow. What do they need to show in order to have a bounce for the government?
I don't think they immediately have a bounce for the government. It's an issue that it matters to a certain group of people, essentially Conservative voters, and it's illegal immigration that matters most. But Suella Braverman, as Home Secretary, and the government as a whole have to show that they have the issue under control in terms of legal immigration as well as illegal immigration.
How popular do you think Suella Braverman is with the public? It looks as though, on the face of it, that she's potentially broken the ministerial code again.
Again, got to go down the route of a proper review and give everybody the opportunity to have their say. She is not popular with a lot of people, and opinion polls show that. There are people, she's one of these people who is very much Marmite. Other brands are available, but people have a view about her, and it's either positive or negative, very strongly, one way or the other.
Why is she in post then if she's not popular?
She came back to do a certain job. She's tackling it. The question is, and the immigration issue is at her door, so she has to show that she's got it in control. And
what would that look like tomorrow with the figures?
It depends how it's...
Talk about the boats. The boats, it's only, what, about 40,000 people?
Yes.
That's a drop in the bucket.
It is, in terms of the other legal migration. But the question is whether the migrants have come from the Ukraine, where they've come from Afghanistan, students, those sorts of students, families which you've been referring to already this morning. And those have got to be seen to be under control, and they are the responsibility of, essentially, of the Home Secretary.